Good morning and welcome. My name is Professor Kendrick, and today we're going to discuss what computer to buy for college. What computer do I need that's going to get me to where I need to not buy another computer for the next 4 to 5 years, depending on how long it takes for me to graduate from college. I get asked this question quite often from students and freshmen, especially the first day of class. Which is the absolute wrong time to be asking this question. This question should be asked about 2 to 3 months before you actually even start college. Because there's a lot of software that needs to be preloaded. Your classes, especially if they're STEM classes, especially if they're cyber classes and something that I teach, you should be ready to go almost on day one. Because I can guarantee you, coming up that first real day, not the first day of class, because the first day is usually this is me, this is my expectations, yada yada yada. But that second day of class, we are running into computers already. Now, with that said, I usually teach 200, 300, 400 level classes, so I'm not really teaching the 100 level. But I imagine it is quite the same for a lot of those different courses. And so you really don't want to be purchasing the computer after you get to college. Mostly because a lot of those sales are gone. And in some cases, especially where I teach, the surrounding stores are plain out of real computers. You're going to get stuck with a crappy computer that doesn't meet your needs, that you're going to end up paying too much for, and then you're going to have to replace it in 2 to 3 months anyway. You could probably be a year, right? But you're going to end up having to replace that computer, and so that's just a waste of money. Now, I'm a teacher, so you know that I don't make a lot of money, right? But what I can say is that when I buy a computer, I want it to be what I need, no more, no less. Now, unfortunately, because of the field that I teach in, a lot of times we're going with a lot more instead of a lot less. But that doesn't mean that the computer that you're going to buy for the first time for your college foray is not going to be as high end as what you may need for depending on the program that you're in, right? So with that said, let's jump into it. Now, right off the bat, I do want to point out that I am biased. I am an anti-Mac person. I am a Mac hater. I am not one of those people that likes Apple computers. If you've seen my other videos, you probably understand why. If not, the simple reason is simply I think that you're paying too much for a Mac. I think for the same product, the same hardware, the same software that you get it with a Mac, in most cases you can get on a PC for almost a quarter cheaper, to be honest, right? So with that said, unless you're in a program that is like graphics design or something where a Mac really thrives, I would stay away from a Mac computer. I would stay away from that idea that, oh, I need a Mac because it's going to get. I see this with college students all the time. They want to be in the in crowd. They want to be in the trend. And Mac has got to be a very trendy product, but are you really paying for something that's going to give you most value for the buck? And I got to be honest with you, I'm cheap, right? I'm very frugal with my money. With that said, if you're not in a cyber and IT program and you want to purchase a Mac, that's fine. No harm, no foul. A Mac can do pretty much anything a PC can do. But I am anti-Mac, so I'm not going to go into Macs today. All right. So first thing that we want to discuss is the simplistic nature of basics. Laptop versus desktop. Well, I hate to tell you this, but if you're running around with that desktop in your parents' house and you're like, oh, I'm going to bring my desktop to the dorms or I'm going to bring my desktop for computer work, probably not a good idea. I would stick with the laptops. I really would. I see students all the time in class. They're taking notes on their laptops. They're using their tablets a lot of times. A laptop is going to get you far, far more in the mobility phase of your college life. I simply cannot recommend a desktop. I just can't, right? Laptops are where it's at for the newer generation. It's going to help you in your college classes. I can't say enough about laptops and your need to pick one up if you're going to a college campus. It's going to serve you well. There's going to be a lot of collaboration. A lot of universities are moving towards that product-based or that project-based learning. You're going to be working with groups a lot of time. You want to bring a laptop. You really do. I would stay away from tablets. Stay away from your phone as your primary measure of communication. Stay away from that tablet. I've heard this from students before where they're like, oh, anything I can do on my laptop, I can do on my tablet. No, no, absolutely not, right? Use that laptop. Get that laptop. It's going to serve you head and tails above everything else. To warranty or not to warranty? So this is a tricky one, right? I would say some warranties are very much worth it. Now, I hate to plug Best Buy here, but I'm going to. Best Buy has one of the best warranty programs when it comes out to it. I have literally had a device that I bought my kids, and they dropped it in the pool, and Best Buy replaced it without question. I've had products with Best Buy where my kids have dropped it, or in some cases thrown it across the room, and Best Buy has replaced it, no questions asked. I love Best Buy's warranty. I cannot say enough about Best Buy's warranty. It is well worth the money, especially in a college campus. You are going to be running from class to class. You're going to have that laptop in your bag, and as long as you don't lose it, if you break it, Best Buy will replace it. Now, other warranty programs I've seen, not so good, right? Some of them are worth it, some of it aren't. I would say do your research. Do your research a lot. Now, I only bring Best Buy because I am an advocate of Best Buy's warranty program because of what I said. With that said, do I say that you have to go buy your laptop from Best Buy? No, you can get it off of Amazon. My wife buys her laptop off of Amazon. I bought products off of Amazon all the time, but that's for me, right? I'm a little bit older. You don't see me running anywhere ever anymore, right? So a little bit older in age, so I'm not running any place. But with that said, I think a warranty for a college student is worth it if it's the right warranty. If it's not, then don't do it. I have seen a lot of times where you've got computers that are for sale at the college. Every college I've ever taught at offers a program. They partner with a company like Dell, or they'll partner with I don't know. There's all kinds of them out there, right? But I'll use Dell as an example. Dell offers where if you buy your laptop through us, we give you a free warranty with it. But once you start digging into the prices, you're not really getting a discount. They say you are, but you're not really, because you can get that same laptop at Walmart or Amazon for $200 or $300 cheaper, and what they're charging on their warranty is $200 or $300. So you're pretty much paying for the warranty anyway. It really depends, right? If the warranty is worth it, I would get it. If it's not worth it, I wouldn't waste my money. So kind of not really a good answer for that one. All right, so we're going to go over non-STEM laptops. This is programs like psychology, English, history majors, anything that's not engineering, computer science, IT, cybersecurity. And the reason I say that is because you don't really need a high-end laptop in those programs, right? You're going to be using a lot of Word docs. You're going to be typing out a lot of essays. You're going to be doing a lot of Excel. You need some basic functionality, but overall, you don't really need a high-end laptop. And so processors, the very first thing you should be looking at processor, I wouldn't go with anything less than an i5 or AMD's equivalent Ryzen 5. There are a lot of laptops out there that are Intel i3s. I would stay away from those. They're kind of becoming antiquated. They're not really high-end. And you're going to be spending a lot of time on your laptop as a college student. You really are. So I would stick with an Intel i5 or a Ryzen 5 as far as processor goes. As far as RAM, 8 gigabytes is more than enough for most programs you're going to be running into. Again, you're going to be using mostly Word documents, a lot of maybe some streaming, some internet searching. You don't need anything robust here. At the same time, you don't want a Chromebook, right? So we need something with a little bit of heft to it, which means that we need that extra RAM to kick in. Storage space, I wouldn't go for anything less than 500 gigabytes. And the reason I say that, you're going to see laptops out there that have got 64 gigabytes or 128 gigabytes, and you're like, oh, this is perfect. Not really. And the reason I say that is because you may be saving papers from your sophomore year that you'll be utilizing in your senior year. And some people are like, wait a second, that never happens. When I went to college, that didn't, yeah. Well, guess what? It's not 20 years ago, as much as we hate to say it. You're going to be having a lot of programs now are stacking or moving their class from class. And you may take a foundational course in your sophomore year, and then in your junior year, a year later, you're taking the middle course, and then in your senior year, you're finally taking the advanced course. But you still need to rely on that information, that product, those papers, from all the way from 3 years ago. And so you need to be able to save it. And so I tell students all the time, don't delete anything as far as homeworks go, right? Which means you need a little bit of storage space. You need a little bit of storage space to do that. And I just wouldn't feel comfortable with anything less than 500 gigabytes. Can you get away with 250? Yes. I'm sure that there's other professors out there that will argue and saying that I'm being overly exaggerated with my storage space. But listen, storage is cheap, right? It's really not that expensive to go with 500 gigabytes over 250 gigabytes in storage space. I would just buy the 500 gigabytes. Do you need more than that in a non-STEM course? Probably not. 500 gigabytes is probably the most you'll need, and you'll probably have a little bit of extra over there, but I wouldn't get anything less than 500 gigabytes. And then finally, screen size, 15 inches. I see students all the time, they're running around with 13-inch laptops, and they're like really close. About year 2, year 3, you're going to start to realize that extra laptop screen size comes in handy. And so for non-STEM, laptop, I would go with these basic foundations, right? Nothing too hefty. Price tag on this, anywhere from $450 to probably $900, depending on where you're going. You can probably get a good deal right now online. I know they have a lot of back-to-school sales coming up. This is, what is it? It's May right now, so you're looking at June, July before you actually need to buy. I would definitely hit this type of laptop for your basic courses, right? Your basic degrees, your non-STEM degrees. I think this will get you fine. It'll last you all 4 years, and probably even 6 years if you're running into the master's program and staying in that field. I think this will be a good starting point. All right, now what about our STEM laptops? Well, now I'm talking IT cyber. For those that know me, my pathway is cybersecurity. I teach a lot of IT and cyber courses. And so this is where parents kind of have a shell shock, right? Because a lot of the things that we're talking about that you're going to need, they're pretty robust and they can get pretty expensive. And with that said, I want to point out that you are going into a STEM field. Now, is this laptop or all the standards that I'm pushing forward to, do you need them necessarily for a degree in engineering? Maybe not. I'm probably pushing it for engineering. You probably don't need anything this robust, but I would go with this type of laptop, right? I would go with this, right? So processor, minimum of an i7 Ryzen 7. I would prefer an i9 or a Ryzen 9. I'm a big advocate of i9s. They have extra cores. They have a little bit more processing speed. You're going to be doing a lot of things. You're going to be running some pretty hefty programs and some virtualization a lot of times, which are going to require those high-end laptops, or excuse me, the high-end processor. Now, I can see parents right now, if they start to look at this on some online websites, their price point just exploded when I said i9, and it did, and I get that. But trust me, I'd rather pay for it now than have to replace it later. But the real thing that I want you to look at right here is cores. You can buy an i7 that's only got 8 cores. That doesn't mean that it makes it a good laptop or a good processor. You really want cores. Okay, now you're looking at a minimum of 16 cores. So if you're looking at an i7 processor and you're going, okay, Professor K said, i7 or Ryzen 7, I can get away with this one. Listen, I've got an old laptop that I used for a long time. It's only got 8 cores. Did it work? Yeah, it worked. Did it work well? No. Right? So you really want 16 cores, which means you're talking about a high-end i7, Ryzen 7, or a low-end i9. I would go with the low-end i9. I would go as much as 20 cores. My wife's laptop has 20 cores. It does really good. I'm running a 16 core on my desktop. I'm running a 12 core on my laptop, but I want to point out I teach remotely a lot of times, and so my laptop really is only used for PowerPoint presentations. It's not really used for anything hefty that we're going to do. A lot of the times I'm going to remote into my desktop, which I don't suggest students do. I really don't. I'm purchasing a new laptop here pretty soon, and it's gonna have, I think, 24 cores is what I'm going with. All right, RAM, minimum 32 gigabytes. Minimum of 32 gigabytes for a cyber program, and the reason is because of virtualization. It's really about that virtualization. If you're in IT or cyber, some computer science programs, you're going to be doing virtualization. And virtualization eats up a lot of resources, and you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, wait a second, Professor K, I run, a Linux system on virtualization, and I only need 2 gigabytes of RAM and maybe 1 or 2 cores. What's all this extra overhead for? Well, you're not going to be running just one virtualized system. You're going to be running 4 or 5 virtualized systems, which puts a major load on your laptop simultaneously. So you need kind of this robust laptop to handle all of that infrastructure, all that programs that we're going to be running simultaneously on there. And then storage space, quite a bit of extra storage space, a minimum of 1 terabyte. And you'll be thinking to yourself, wait a second, 500 gigabytes is what you told non-STEM. Why do I need extra 500 gigabytes? That's a lot of extra storage space. Well, it's simple. Virtualization. I know I keep on saying this, virtualization. Just to give you some context, right, I'm running a Kali system, and I dedicated 80 gigabytes towards it, right? That's 80 gigabytes. Now I'm running a Windows 10 system. I'm probably going to dedicate another 30 to 40 gigabytes towards that, and then it just adds up. It adds up really, really quickly when we start doing virtualization. I know in one of the classes I teach, we have 10 virtualized systems running, not simultaneously, but throughout the course. That means each one of those systems is going to be on there. And the last thing you want to do as a student is get this virtualized system up and going. You're going to start working on it. You're going to start have it there on your computer, and then you run out of space and you have to delete a virtualized system. And guess what? You may be using that virtualized system in a future class. And so you want that extra storage space. You want that terabyte of hard drive space. Screen size. We're going to go with 15 inches as a minimum. I would recommend 17 inches just because when you start talking about virtualization, you're going to have a lot of little windows popping up simultaneously that you're going to be able to get into, which means your one screen is going to end up turning into 4 screens sometimes, or you're going to have to be doing a lot of back and forth with pulling screens over. I would go with a 17-inch. My laptop is a 15-inch, but I plug it into a monitor. One of the benefits of being a professor is when I'm showing off virtualization, even if I'm remoted into my desktop, I have this big projector screen. I have this big TV, so I'm able to look on the big projector, but I would go with a 17-inch. I really would. If they made a bigger screen, I would go with probably a bigger screen. But you got to remember, when you're talking about IT cyber, if you're talking about a STEM program, you live and die on that system, right? A lot of the stuff that you're going to be doing in class is on that system. And so it's just preferable to have a robust system, which means that you're talking easily, with these specs, you're talking easily $2,000, right? $2,000 to $3,000 for a sound laptop that's going to get into there, all right? Now, hopefully you didn't stop off because I want to talk about accessories. What are we going to need as far as accessorization on our laptops? What are we going to need to be to bring to class to function correctly? Now you'll notice that I've got on these accessories a webcam. My wife and I were very kind of disappointed. She bought this new laptop about a year ago. It was an i9. It had 20 cores on it. It had 64 gigabytes of RAM. I mean, this thing was jacked in all perspectives. And we didn't even think to look, but it didn't have a webcam. There wasn't a webcam built into this laptop. And so you could kind of imagine the shock. Now, not a big deal for us. We would just plug in a webcam. She doesn't even go to college anymore, so it's really not a live or die thing for her. But I can only imagine a college student thinking they've got a webcam on this computer, and then all of a sudden they've got a presentation they have to do. And a lot of times professors are requiring presentations to be in video format so that you can just turn it in, something like what we're doing right now, and then I could grade it later, and they don't have a webcam. And so they have this computer, they're scrounging to go off to Walmart or someplace else to pick up a webcam, and you're paying an extra $50 to $60 for it, right? Yeah, you could probably buy something cheaper, but you really want a webcam with 1080p. You want something that's high def. One of the biggest problems that I have with a lot of students, especially if they're doing something like what I'm doing right here, is I want to see their face. And so I have a lot of times I have students that don't want to show their face on their presentations, and I require them to show their faces because I want to see that smiling face. I want to see that presentation skills, right? USBs, I recommend for non-STEM students 2 8GB USB drives, minimum of 2, and that's so that you can share different things with other students, right? You may put it on a Google Drive, you may put it somewhere else, but a lot of times you underestimate the power of a USB stick. Now I know students, they're like, wait a second, I'll just use Google Drive, or I'll just use the cloud, or I'll just use this. Yeah, I get that, but you're still going to use, I guarantee, these 2GB, 8GB USB sticks, they'll be fine for what you're going to use in the future. You can hang on to them. Never underestimate the power of a USB drive. Just don't do it. You'd be surprised. Sometimes the internet goes down on the campus. Sometimes you can't get a good connection. Sometimes when you're trying to upload it into the cloud, because you've got 30 students in one classroom, you got 16 classrooms per building, the web is just not what you think it is, and having that USB stick will come in handy. For STEM students, I recommend 32 gigabytes. And the reason I recommend so much is because a lot of times you're going to want to be able to share a virtual drive. You're going to be able to share, not a virtual drive, but a virtual system with a classmate. They're going to have files or programs that you're going to want to be able to copy back and forth. And the same reason, sometimes you're going to want to be able to maneuver, and there's just not enough internet. There's just not bandwidth for it. Now, for cyber and IT students, specifically cyber and IT students, I recommend that you buy just one 2 gigabyte or even a 1 gigabyte drive, especially if you're going to do a digital forensics class. Now, that's specific to a digital forensics class. You'll notice a lot of times that we may, and I think we're getting away from it a little bit, where we're going to have these USB drives that come into play, where you're going to actually dissect that USB drive and come into play. And so buy something really cheap. I will admit that as much as I hate to say it, I bought a bunch off of garage sale, really small ones, and then I cleared them out. Now I had a write blocker to make it a little bit safe. Don't be plugging in USB drives that you don't know, that you find on the sidewalk or you buy from a yard sale into your system unless you've got the proper equipment, right? But if you're a high-end IT cyber student and you're like, hey, I've got a write blocker on my system, go for it. There's no problem with that. You'll be fine, right? Software. Now these are basic softwares that you might want to have. An antivirus program, a typical Office program, something like Microsoft Office 365, just a Word document program, something that's going to be pretty easy for you to jump in and start that word processing, right? I prefer Microsoft Office. A lot of colleges prefer Microsoft Office. I do suggest that you don't buy it if it's not already on your computer. Parents, here's a cheap hack for you. You can get Office for like $10. Last time I checked, right? You go on, look for the university. Once your student or your kid's got an EDU account, right? Once they have that EDU email, start looking for Microsoft Office or even your antivirus program. A lot of times that'll be cheaper. Just by having that EDU email, you can go online and search for educational benefits or educational software, and you'll get a steep discount on a lot of this stuff for software. I highly recommend it. You don't need it. Now, if you're already paying for something like Office 365, I paid like $10 a month for it. Of course, my wife uses it, I use it, my kids use it, everybody uses it, my family. So we have a family license key. It's well worth it for us. We're paying like $120 a month. But as a student, if you're only using it for your one college student, I would go online and see what kind of discounts I can get. And then program-specific software. If you're in IT or cyber, you're going to be downloading a lot of software, right? Find out what you're going to be downloading. You can go through the syllabus, which we talked about a little bit earlier, and it'll tell you what software programs you need to download to get to that. If you're just a basics program within a psychology student or something else, there may be specific programs that you need to download for that. Check with your college to be sure. Now, with all that said, there are certain colleges that are going to cloud platforms for a lot of their virtualization. With that said, you don't need these big, robust laptops if your college or university is going down that pathway. Do I suggest they get that robust system? Yes. I still suggest it, even if they're doing a lot of their virtualization over the cloud, because students like to share things. Students like to go through it. And as much as I hate to say it, students are going to be tied to those laptops a lot of times. Now, these are the minimum specifications that I would request for a student to bring into college. But I think they'll last them all 4 years, 5 years if their program takes that long to be successful in college. All right, well, that's it for me today. Have a great one. I hope this helped. As always, I would appreciate if you liked and subscribed. Until next time, I'm Professor K.